everyone, Gaara here and welcome to a brand new video. Today I'm gonna do a little review about the 9 new cards that have been released on Gamescom or at the Gamescom, and since they released like a bunch of cards at once, I decided to make a review. So I wanted to do a review about the Grand Tournament cards that have been released yet, but since they released one card per day, it's kind of awkward. I don't really know when to do a review video because yeah, every day there is a new card that is released. So maybe you guys can help me out. Maybe I should do them weekly or so, or when GTG or TGT finally is released. Anyways, so let's start with the first card here. It is Mukla's Champion. It is a 5 mana for free with the Inspire effect. Give your other minions +1/+1, which means as soon as you use your hero power, you buff your other minions with +1/+1. The first interesting thing about this card, it is a beast, which makes Web Spinner, Web Spinner more relevant, I guess, or a hunter as a class or as an archetype class, sort of. Anyways, I still think this card is super bad and will not be played just because Inspire effects are very slow. You lose tempo and you need a super strong effect to compensate. So right now with the currently released cards, they might implement cards like Mech Warper. Like all the mechs on their own are pretty weak, except Shredder, Piloted Shredder, but as soon as you play a Mech Warper and you get them out faster, let's say you have a Mech Warper quote unquote for Inspire minions, you get this card on turn 4, so the card suddenly gets much stronger. So anyways, for 5 mana for free is really bad. It dies to every current 5-drop that is played. It dies to Sludge Belchers and doesn't even kill like the first body. It dies to lower tap, it dies to everything. It dies to Shredder, which is a 4-drop. You don't want your 5-drop to die to 4-drop. So this minion to survive and get a buff off is only possible if you have already bought control. And in that case, lower tap, for example, is a much stronger minion than this card. So right now, this card is unplayable. Let's go to the next card. Ancestor's Knowledge. So this card is not bad at first sight. Draws 2 cards like Arcane Intellect. You can play it for 2 mana, but it overloads for 2, which means you have to look at it as a 4 mana card, and for 4 mana this card is terrible. Like drawing 2 cards, like card draw right now is not the biggest problem Shaman has. The biggest problem is early board presence, and that you can like fight for board presence very efficiently, and Overlord really screws over Shaman. So this is like another card that will really screw your curve, because 2 Overlord is really a lot. If you coin this card out, you have basically no play the following turn. And right now it might change with the cards that will be released at the Grand Tournament, because you get like very strong new 2-drops, and if you have like a lot of strong early minions, you might want to get the card draw with a card like this. And in the late game you don't really care about the Overlord. If you play this at turn 8, whatever, you don't really care about 2 Overlords. So for 2 mana get 2 draws is really not bad. But right now Mana Tide and Azure Drake would be played over this card in my opinion. Alright, the next card is the Argent Lands. Battlecry, reveal a minion in each deck. If yours costs more, get 1 durability. This is like a new effect they implemented with this set of cards, and I really don't like it, to be honest, because it's another RNG effect that makes your cards stronger. And as a pro gamer, you really hate RNG because you want to build decks with the least RNG possible, because yeah, it can go either way, the outcome, and it can benefit your opponents who really don't like that. So but the card on its own, 2/2 for 2 weapon, you can compare it to an Stormforged X, and the Stormforged X is unplayable, and you can compare it to It's tough to compare it to like a Cork Hammer, because Cork Hammer is much stronger. It gives you Taunt and Divine Shield on your minion for 1 more mana and has more charges, doesn't need this fancy effect. I think this card is weak. Glaive-Zuka is another one, and Glaive-Zuka is also better. You don't need like an RNG outcome to get more charges, and Glaive-Zuka buffs a minion, and that is like a really strong effect. So to get one more durability, I think this card is bad. I'm not sure if this is a class card, difficult to say. If this is like a neutral weapon, it's interesting because it opens up Mage and Priest to play weapons, which wasn't possible before except for the Blinktron 3000. So that would be the only interesting thing. But right now, like if you get a Thought Steal from if you Thought Steal a rogue and you get a Poison or Blade Fury, you can actually use that in Priest. So, but yeah, if it's not a neutral weapon, even if it's like a class card, this card looks pretty weak. Let's go to the next one. Armored Warhorse. This is another interesting card because it's a beast. I'm always, as a hunter player, mainly, I'm always curious about new beast minions. So it's a 4 minion with 5 free stats, which is alright. With the battle card, reveal a minion in each deck. If yours costs more, gain charge. So if you win that, it's actually a pretty strong card, because a 5 free charges for 4 mana is pretty good. But then again, it's RNG, and then again you have to play a slower deck, and a card like this is aggressive. It's good in a Smorg deck, but a Smorg deck will play a lot of low cost minions, so that you will get a charge effect is highly unlikely in a deck where you want to play this card, and in a slower deck you don't want to play this card. So the conclusion is this card is bad, in my opinion. So let's go to the next one. In the current meta, because the current meta is so fast paced. Anyhow, Bolster. It seems like this is a warrior card because of the brown colored background. Give your taunt minions +2/+2. And again, I think this card seems too weak. If you compare it to Mark of the Wild from Druid, it costs 2 mana and gives a minion taunt, and like taunt in addition to +2/+2, which means you can give it to any minion. Right now, warrior only plays Sludge Belcher, sometimes Senjin, and super rarely Defender of Argus as the only taunt minions, and you can buff those with +2/+2. And yeah, just it is too rare that you will have a taunt. I think this card is too weak. +2/+2 for 2 mana is not good enough right now. So in some combo decks, I still think like Taskmaster is stronger. It doesn't give your minion taunt, that's the biggest issue with this card, so I think this card is unplayable as well, or underpowered. Burgle, or Burgle, whatever. Add 2 random class cards to your hand. So this is very similar to Thought Steal, almost the same. Just the difference is, I think personally this is slightly weaker than Thought Steal, because getting class cards means that you can get worse cards that someone would not even play in their deck, like Corruption, for example. It's like a very bad card, you don't want to get Corruption, so it's like a Netharian effect, sort of. And yeah, like when you play Thought Steal, you get 2 cards from his deck, and usually he will play 30 good cards in their deck. And in rare cases, the cards are useless, like when you play against a warrior and you get a Shield Slam, or against the rogue and he plays poison, deadly poison, and you get that, it's useless for you. But with this, you can get even like worse cards. This looks like a rogue card because of the artwork. So for rogue, this might be decent. I think this card will be played for sure. I don't know if this will be good or good enough, because you have to cut other current cards. But it's interesting for sure, and this card will be played. So the next card is Edric the Pure. Battlecry, change all minions attack to 1. So it affects the entire board state. This is a 7 mana card, and right now we are on the state where you play Ancient of War, Dr. Boom, and almost no other 7-drop really. Baron Geddon sometimes. So yeah, it is a sort of good effect because it kind of deals if you're behind on board, but not really, right? So if the opponents play Death Rattle minions, which is mostly the case, you just change the attack to 0, which doesn't kill them or deal with them. So let's say your opponent has a Sylvanas, you change its attack to 1, it doesn't really do anything, he can steal your minion, that's bad. And the attack has 3/7 stats, which is awful. For 7 mana you want like a minion with equivalent stats with a good effect in addition. So the stats are super bad. For example, Tyrion has 6/6 stats with Divine Shield plus Taunt, and you get an Ashbringer, basically a 5 attack weapon with 3 charges. The value is ridiculous, and this card has super bad stats. Doesn't deal with any minion that is played in turn 7. Like Dr. Boom just... Alright, it kind of contests sort of a Dr. Boom because it changes his attack to 1. But in the end of the day, the Boombots will just kill this card. So I think this card is also very bad. It's a Paladin card, so yeah, in Paladin will probably not play this card. It can be comboed with Kodo, I guess, the turn after, but I think you would rather play Humility and Aldo Peacekeeper, because those cards are pretty good for their mana cost, so this card is way too expensive. Alright, the next one is Gadgetsan Jouster. Reveal a minion in each deck if your cost is more game +1/+1. Another one of those fancy effects which I really don't like. At first glimpse, I thought this might be playable in a control deck because you will like have a higher chance that you will get a higher cost minion, so you're most likely to get effect. Then you get a 2/3 for 1, which is good. But then again, you want to play minions on curve, so you will add at least 2 of those in your deck, and then you play 2 drops, 3 drops, 4 drops, 5 drops. It's still RNG in the end of the day. Even if you play against Zoo, he plays Sea Giants, Mal'Ganis, you can still lose the RNG. And then if you don't get this effect guaranteed, it's a 1/2 for 1. It's awful. It doesn't kill anything. It's like a waste of card in your deck. So the only deck that this card might see play is Handlock, because you play so many Giants, and Giants are like the highest cost minions. You can't have more expensive cards, not even with Deathwing. So it has the highest chance to get like consistently the buff. But even then, I don't think you would just play Zombie Chow. You don't really care about the heal effect this early in the game, and it's like consistent 2/3 stats. So I think this card is also unplayable right now, unfortunately. Let's go to the next one. Gormok the Impaler, another legendary 4/4/4/4 is alright. It's not too crazy because now we live in the times of Pirated Shredder, which has ridiculous stats. And if you have at least 4 minions that on board, you deal 4 damage, like a fire elemental sort of effect. Alright, just do the maths. You need to have 4 minions on board by turn 4, which means you have to play at least one turn, more than 1 minion with 1, 2 or 3 mana in 1 turn. And all those minions have to survive, because you always have to think about a card. You want to play it on curve, right? You want to play this card on curve. So if you have a perfect curve, you still can't get the effect out of this card. So you have to play more than 1 minion in 1 turn. So if you play a turn 1 minion in turn 1, and a turn 2 minion in turn 2, and a turn 3 minion in turn 3, and all your minions survive, you still don't get this effect. So you have to play more than 1 minion in 1 turn, like a Hunter Creep on 2 that dies, and your turn 1 and turn 3 minions survive, so you have 4 minions on board. 4 minions is like a really crazy amount to have till turn 4. So the only deck that this card might see play is like Aggro Paladin, but even then you need the Master for Battle, turn 3, as a setup. It has to survive, and another minion from the turn 1 or 2 has to survive. So if you have a perfect curve with Aggro Paladin, and you have this card in your hand, it is a good card, because you deal 4 damage for 4 mana, and you get 4/4 stats, which is very good. But for this, like, I don't think it is consistent at all, not even in Control Paladin. And yeah, like right now you don't even play Pirated Shredders as a 4-drop, which is like guaranteed value. So I think this card, it might see some people testing it, but getting like after implosions and stuff. But like after implosion you can play a 5-drop, why would you play a 4-drop and stuff like that? Maybe it will see you play in Shaman, sort of, because you will, with the new cards, you might have like an easier way to get a lot of minions, and then dealing 4 damage for 4 is not bad. But right now this card, just with the current existing cards, this card is not good enough. Alright. Let's go to the next one. Maam, injured Qualir. I think this is, well, the card can only be played in Priest so far, because 2-1 for 1 is really bad. And the only classes that can sort of heal it are Shaman and Priest, and Shaman only if he gets a heal totem, and that's like super slow, or you play the Taunt, the 0 mana card that you just heals your minion full and gives Taunt, but it's a bad card, so it's not playable in Shaman in my opinion. So the only deck that where this card might see play, or will see play actually, because I think it's not too terrible, is Priest, because you can actually combo it really well with Circle Healing, Cleric combos, because you draw a card, you cycle. It's not too, unfortunately it's not good enough for Light of the Naru, because it doesn't spawn the minion, which is very unfortunate. If this would be 5 toughness instead, this would be so much better, because you get actually the minion. But even then, you get a 2-4 turn 2 basically, or with the coin turn 1, which is alright. It contests really well with all the aggro decks. It's 1 more toughness than Zombie Chow. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but it actually is a big deal. And in late game it is not terrible, because you do those crazy Circle of Healing Cleric turns with Pyromancer, and then you will draw a lot of cards. So this will see play in Priest for sure. I don't know how good it is actually. It might end up that Zombie Chow is still more consistent than this card. Also, like, the only similar minion to this card right now is Injured Blade Master, and the only deck we actually see Injured Blade Master being played is Priest, so you can only expect this card to be seen in Priest, if you see it at all. Alright, the next card, Master Jouster. Another one of those effect cards that where you have to reveal 1 minion in each deck, and if your minions is higher cost, you get a fancy effect. And this effect is actually good, because you get Taunt and Divine Shield, and a 5/6 for 6 with Taunt Divine Shield is actually better than any current existing 6 mana Taunt. It is better than Sunwalker, slightly. It is actually much better than Sunwalker, because Sunwalker is a 4/5 for 6, but it is super, it's like way more consistent. And Sunwalker is right now not played. You have to always consider all those facts. Sunwalker is right now not played. If it's played, it's rarely played in Ram Druid, and Ram Druid is really bad right now. And maybe sometimes in Control Paladin. But besides that, Sunwalker is not really played. And this card has like better stats than Sunwalker if you get the effect, okay? Let's get to the point. Alright, if you don't get the effect, you always have to consider worst case scenario. And I think it's still a coin flip. You can't go for more than 50% that you will get this effect. So in 50% of the cases, it is a 5/6 for 6, which is terrible. It is like a worse Boulder Fist Ogre, and Boulder Fist Ogre is not being played right now just because the card is bad. There's better minions. You have Emperor, you have Sylvanas. So if you get the effect, it is a good card, but do you want to get this effect only like 50% of the time? I'm not so sure. Okay, let's go to the next one. The Skeleton Knight. Death Rattle, reveal a minion in each deck. If your costs more, return this to your hand. Alright, first the stats. It is a legendary, so you can play it only once. It's a 6 mana, 7/4 minion. So it dies to BGH, which is really bad. You don't want to play minions that die to BGH. 4 toughness at 6 mana is really bad as well. It dies to a lot of stuff that costs like 4 mana or 5 mana. And usually you want your minion to survive or just die to stuff that has equal mana costs. And the Death Rattle is only another RNG effect, and it's like a coin flip. So I would say 50% of the time it goes back to your hand. So you get a bad card back to your hand 50% of the time. So I think this card is unplayable as well, unfortunately. Alright. Tuska Jouster. Alright, this is actually good effect. Reveal a minion in each deck. If your costs more, restore 7 health to your minion. or to your hero. Finally we're talking. 5/5 for 5 is good. So you have a minion with good stats. You have to compare it like to current existing cards. For example, in Paladin you have the Corruptor, the 5 mana card, the new class card that reduces the cost of dragons by 2. And it is a very good card on paper, and it's still unplayable just because of the meta. And this is like, but first you need to get good stats on your card that you can even consider it. And this effect, 50% chance to heal yourself of 7 is super good. Compared to Healbot, insanely strong card. This card will be played 100%. 100%. I think it is very strong in slow control decks. 5/5 of 5 is very good. It deals with Sludge Belchers, it deals with lore taps. And if you build a slow deck and you can push the percentage from 50% higher, you have a high chance to get a heal, and 7 heal is a big deal. It's a strong card, will definitely see play. That's it for the cards from Gamescom, and I got a little extra because right now there were 2 new cards released on Reddit. Actually, there's like a post on Reddit about it, and see if I can bring this up. And this is the first one. Avianna. There's a Druid legendary released and a Rogue legendary. And this card is a 9 mana 5/5. So the stats are terrible. That's the first thing. Like, you want a minion to have stats equal to its costs, alright? So 5/5 for 9 mana is terrible. It doesn't deal with any minion, not even close. Not even with an 8 mana minion, 7 mana minion, 6 mana minion, whatever. But the effect has to be super good to compensate those stats. And the effect is your minions cost 1 mana. All your minions cost 1 mana, and that makes this card ridiculous. So in a ramp druid deck, you will obviously you want to play this in a ramp druid deck where you get this card out as fast as possible. And you have additional mana. You will basically, like, the more mana you have, if you have an innervate after this card, for example, or if this card is reduced with Emperor and you get it out and you have like 1-2 mana, you can combine it with a lot of crazy stuff. You can combine this if you have 1 or 2 additional mana with Ancient of War to protect it, so you have the effect permanent. And 5/5 is not easy to kill, for like if it's behind a taunt. You can combine it with Kel'Thuzad. You can play this plus Kel'Thuzad, so your opponent has to deal with Kel'Thuzad first before he kills that, and that seems already like GG. So this is like an ultimate win condition card. It is super strong, will definitely see play, and I will definitely try to build decks around this card. Alright, the next one is, or actually the last one, is Anurak. It's an interesting card. It's a 9 mana, 8 attack for health minion. The Death Rattle is return this to your hand and summon a 4/4 Narup. This Death Rattle is very good. Yeah, because this card will never disappear from the game. If you have to silence it and then kill it, which is very strong because you force out the silence and then your opponent has to deal with it. So the card is super sticky. It has a lot of attack. It deals with like all giants and contests like all currently played minions. There's like no minion that has 9 toughness or more that is played right now. So it kills everything, and the Death Rattle is very strong. You get a 4/4 every time it dies, so you can trade it in everything and always get a 4/4 and then replay this card forever. And problem is now it is a rogue card, and there's no rogue deck that would play a minion like this right now, because Oil Rogue is the strongest rogue, so you need some sort of control rogue. And if this would be like a neutral minion, it would definitely see play, but in rogue I'm not so sure. It doesn't really fit to the rogue playstyle, and it is super expensive. 9 mana is super expensive. It's like another very, very strong Death Rattle, super heavily, super late game minion. 9 mana is ridiculous. It's like even more, it's like slower than 8 mana minions, and there's almost no 8 mana minion being played right now. And yeah, it's just a super strong card that might not see play because it's too expensive. We have to see if the meta will slow down, if they implement stronger taunts and heal cards like the Tuskar. And yeah, that's it for the review. Let me know if you guys liked it, and give me some feedback if I should do more reviews about all the cards, or when the expansion comes out. And yeah, see you guys next time. Peace.
Guys, it's Reynad back, and today I have the part 1 of my Grand Tournament review. So, Blizzard just announced the next expansion for Hearthstone today, and I have kind of here in front of us the list of cards that we saw in their big live announcement thing that they had up in San Francisco. So I'm kind of going to go through the cards one by one, give my first impressions of them,